Cheers. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Hey guys, Matt here. We are back for another steak battle video. This is the last steak battle video of the Des Moines Challenge Week. We have first timer to steak battles, Calvin Heimburg. And we have Simon Lizotte back for a steak battle.
Three in a row.
Three in a row. It's kind of becoming a tradition. So Calvin, what we have is we have 4 different steaks. This is going to be steak 1, steak 2, steak 3, and then steak 4. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into steak 1.
Let's find that good juicy piece.
So Calvin,
Okay.
just last week you were in Europe,
Yeah.
and then you came back to Des Moines, and then you're going back to Europe
Yeah.
this week. What was your reasoning for coming back for the Des Moines Challenge?
Well, I was always planning on playing Des Moines Challenge. I wasn't always planning on playing the Swedish Open, but I didn't contact the proper authorities and let the tournament know I wasn't there. And I just happened to be at home not doing anything. They messaged me, and I decided to catch a last-minute flight out there to go play their event. But yeah, I was always planning on being here. I left my vehicle here at Gannon's house.
Yeah.
So I was always going to be coming back here at some point, and yeah, I was always planning on playing.
Well, it looked like you had a good finish, top 10.
Yep, yeah. Not the greatest first round, but the last 2 were solid.
Yeah,
you know.
kind of similar to Simon's tournament.
You took the momentum from Sweden straight.
Yeah,
into this.
right,
Sweden
yeah.
straight to here. Yeah.
Yeah, did that scare you in Sweden about losing your cash streak?
Honestly, I wasn't worried about that at all. But yeah, I guess it was very close. You know, I tied for last cash.
Yeah.
Bogeyed the last hole. You know, just to barely make it in there. But yeah, it was cool. It was just playing a tournament blind and not a lot of sleep is never a great idea.
No, that's a lot of travel. All right, so we've had steak 1. Let's go ahead and dive into steak 2 here. Simon's just been getting back on the grind. You took some time off with, having your kid, and then you've come back for Preserve and now Des Moines. I have noticed the last couple of years you have been doing these, or you kind of take a little bit of a break during the season. Do you feel like you kind of prefer that now? Like, instead of just doing one big long grind, you want to have longer breaks during the year?
Yeah, when I first started dating my now wife, we kind of had a rule that I have to be home every 3 weeks. And then when we had our first kid, it shrunk down to every 2 weeks. And now that we have our second kid, she is now 10 weeks old, things are just getting a bit trickier at home. I mean, we don't have a lot of family at home. Basically, we only have my mother-in-law, who's our only help, and she's a doctor. So you can only imagine what her life is like. Ever since the pandemic, being a doctor has been extremely stressful. So yeah, it's just very limited help at home, but we appreciate what we get. So I just try to be home as much as possible. You know, being a stay-at-home mom is a very exhausting and taxing job sometimes. So I want to get home and support when I can.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, especially with having 2 young kids. I mean, I don't have any kids. I couldn't even imagine.
Double the trouble.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try a second piece here.
Yeah, go ahead and try that second piece. And Calvin and I can dive into this third piece here.
Yes, please.
So Calvin, I've noticed that you still rock the van.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gannon and Gavin and a lot of people have started to transition over to Airbnbs. Why is it that you still stick with the van?
I like the van because even if I don't necessarily use it every single week, I like the space it gives me to kind of store all my stuff, and everything has its own specific spot. It's not like I'm not living out of like a suitcase, and I can just have, I don't know, there's just room for everything. And then when I do need it, maybe on an off week, or maybe there is a tournament I want to use it at a campground, I have everything I need in there. I got a fridge in there, sink, bed, so it's just nice to have everything I need, and and have a specific spot for all of it.
So how often then do you use the van versus like an Airbnb or hotel?
It kind of depends. I would say, sometimes I'm even just like parked outside someone else's Airbnb, but I would say early in the year you'll catch me in the van a lot more, and later in the year you'll catch me in the van. But middle of the year, I'm pretty much never in it. It's just, I don't know. When it gets hot outside, it's pretty miserable. I don't have like an AC unit, and you can park it in the shade and run your fans and everything, but it still takes a pretty long time for it to cool off in the evenings.
So
I'm
both.
so hungry. Sorry.
No, dive in. Yeah. So both of you guys are known as crushers. Who do you think throws further between you two? Simon.
Simon.
I mean, I think, yeah, maybe nowadays it'll be really close. In the younger years, for sure. But I can't really do distance contests anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna
because of my
say,
body.
do you even practice throwing like really
no,
far?
No. I can do like 3 hard shots a day, and then my elbow will be like, good for now.
Yeah, yeah. I did notice you threw one shot on 14 yesterday. It was big spike hyzer, and you were saying like it's
Yeah.
the play, but it's gonna hurt my arm.
Yeah, kind of the harder I throw and the more off angles, like really high or super turnover or super hyzer, like the more funky angles I put on the elbow, the more I'll notice it. So
Do you take into consideration before a shot, like what it might, like the toll it'll take on your body?
probably not as much as I should. I try to keep it smart out there, and I really failed this week round 1. I don't know, I kind of want to throw back to my early days where the cameras in the gallery were there. I was like,
Yeah,
I need to throw the fun shots,
Yeah.
not the smart shots, and my scorecard suffered accordingly.
I think it only suffered on the one hole.
No, multiple.
All right. Well, one of the holes you got OTB shot of the day, throwing the fun shot, so
Worth it.
worth it.
Cheers.
What about you? You had an injury earlier this year.
Yeah.
Does that like come into consideration when you're throwing big shots, like especially with all these longer courses?
Yeah. I've been dealing with a elbow injury, kind of my inner elbow, and I don't really feel it, or it doesn't seem to be a problem with any backhand. So I've kind of gravitated to throwing a lot more backhands this year. It's still kind of bothering me. I'll throw some forehands, but I kind of have to make sure I keep the elbow bent. I'm not going to be no hyzer forehands. It's all kind of choppy. Go back to the forehand form that everyone tells you not to do when they're teaching you forehand. So I'm still dealing with it, but it's definitely slowly getting better. It's more functional now than it was at the beginning of the year.
All right. So we've had stake 1, stake 2, stake 3. Let's go ahead and dive in to stake 4 over here.
Looks
So
really
something
good.
that's kind of unique about these stakes is I tried to do 4 very distinctly different tasting seasonings. I don't know if that's coming through with smoking them as much. So like it's hard to sometimes say like what your favorite is if they're all kind of different. But you guys do have Europe coming up. 3 majors: European Open, Worlds, USDGC. How do you guys prepare for this last bit of stretch?
The second half of the year always seems to be the biggest grind and more big events. So it's I think it's just being smart and resting your body when you need to, and really making sure you get out there, and at least for me, get in the practice rounds. I need to get out there at the big tournaments. I feel when I feel comfortable on a course, I feel like I play better, and that for me that's just a couple extra practice rounds.
Simon, you're back on the European team for the
Yep.
President's Cup. How do you feel about the European team's chances this year? Are they finally gonna get over that hump?
It's really hard to predict. The American team, of course, on paper looks basically unbeatable. But on that track, we've seen it before, it can get very close. And I think the American team kind of is starting to feel a bit of that pressure that they've never lost. And maybe that'll actually help us because we have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
America, I think, has a lot to lose and a lot of pressure. We're just showing up. We're basically on home turf, and I'm thinking, why not? Why not this time?
It could be the year. I mean, you have probably two of the best women. I mean, but
Yeah.
Kristen hasn't been playing, so we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah.
And see how much that injury affected her. I mean, can't imagine rib injuries.
Probably doesn't
Could
help.
be very good for playing, and then for something like that, you're not taking maybe as serious as the event. But obviously you and Niklas. I guess I don't know who else is on the European team, but But yeah, the U.S. team looks pretty insane. Calvin, Gannon, Barella. Yeah, that's gonna be pretty tough to beat.
Yeah.
All right, so we've had all 4 stakes. This was stake 1, stake 2, stake 3, stake 4. We'll start with Simon over there. In order, what was your favorite stakes from favorite to least favorite?
I feel like every time I'm here, I like the first one we try the best. And I don't know if it's just a mental thing that the first one just hits different because your palate is just so fresh. But I feel like it's the saltiest. It has like the most aromas going for it. It is just a phenomenal steak. And then it kind of just gradually got less and less. Like, I don't know. I just retried that and like that one hits different. So definitely 1 is my number 1. And then I'd say 2 was my number 2. Number 4 was 3. And actually the one that looked the best to me because it has the most charcoal look. The flavor didn't quite come out to me there. If that's a word.
Yeah. What about you, Calvin?
Some of what my rankings are similar, some are different, but one for me was the second one here.
Why?
I don't know. It just hit the best. It was a little less salty than this one.
It is
These
less
two are
salty.
definitely the saltiest, I feel like.
Yeah.
But this one's a little less salty than this one. I don't know. I think I just like that. But yeah, this was probably my number 2 here. And then I would go 3, 4, just like Simon did. But I don't know. This one, we took
loser steak.
we went from here to here, and I just like that one more than this one. And then I know I definitely like that one more than that guy. But I don't know. These are definitely way different though. Like the not salty at all over here.
This one had something going on that I really liked.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough to beat the first 2.
Guess we just like salt.
Salt and steak, go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of the perfect combo. So
This has got to be your favorite seasoning. That's
so
number
so
1.
steak 1 here
Mm-hmm.
is the ultimate steak and roast rub.
Okay.
This is the steak seasoning that I use on every steak battle.
Okay.
It's generally the favorite. Sometimes it's not, but it's usually towards the top. It's my favorite steak seasoning. It's called Excalibur's Ultimate Steak and Roast Rub.
That's so good.
That's good.
Steak.
All of them are. If I had these in the restaurant, I would be extremely happy. Also, by the way, they're all great.
Steak 2 was this R.L. Schreiber's Calgary steak. So there's a guy that reached out to me. He watches all of these steak battles.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in, I think, like Kentucky. Must work for like some sort of seasoning company or whatever. But sent me like 20 different seasonings to try out. Wanted me to use these on the steak battles.
Very
We did
good.
one yesterday with a different one. It was called the Supreme Steak Seasoning.
Yeah.
So that was the second steak seasoning. The third one was one that I've had before, and I didn't particularly like it.
It's a bit weak.
The Malabar steak rub. The last time I did this was actually several years ago. I think we had like Brian Earhart. Can't think of his name. He used to tour from Minnesota. Oh gosh. Anyway,
Terry Roethlisberger.
yeah, Terry Roethlisberger. Yep. He was on. It was kind of different back then. Back then, I used to film these with my phone, and I just
Okay.
kind of shoved my phone in people's faces. Now we have a slightly different setup.
This
And
one
then-
has some different herbs in it that doesn't really. It's not the classic steak taste.
No, definitely not. And then the fourth one is the Texas Roadhouse steak seasoning.
Oh.
Now, I don't think this is actually the steak seasoning they use at Texas Roadhouse,
Okay.
because when we were in Florida at chess.com, we went to Texas Roadhouse, and I asked for their steak seasoning, and they just gave it to me in a little tub,
Mhm.
and it was like white, and I'm pretty sure that was the seasoning. And then we went to somewhere else on tour, and I asked for their steak seasoning as well, and they gave me this one, and this one is kind of this orangish color,
Mm-hmm.
and it's much sweeter. So I don't think this is actually the one that they use in the restaurant. So anyway, this was Steak Battle Season 6, Episode 8. This was the last steak battle of the Des Moines Challenge week, so I was really happy to get all of you pros on. We had you guys, we had Yuli, Brody, Alden, Ezra, Isaac, lots of big name pros. Excited to have you guys. Hopefully you guys will want to come back
Oh yeah.
again,
definitely.
possibly next year.
I'm back.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's an easy sell.
Awesome.
So good.
All right. So we'll see you guys next year. Probably my next steak battle will be with Ty Tonette, the tournament director of the Des Moines Challenge, and we'll do a recap of the challenge possibly later this week. All right. See you guys.
Thanks for caddying.
Yeah,
Anytime.
thanks for having me.
Nice top 10.
Thank you.